Welcome to Unscripted Counselors with Kellie and Cris. I am Cris from Keneally and Bella Counselling based in Queensland, and we've got Kellie here.
Hi, I'm Kellie from Alternative Lifestyles and Sexual Counselling over in Perth, WA. How are we?
Good, yourself?
Not too bad. I'm outside today because it is an absolute beautiful day. So you may hear my dog because he's a brilliant guard dog. And we are living right on a train line. So hopefully the train doesn't go past.
Fingers
If
crossed.
not, that's what that noise is. It is the freight trains. And they've put a noise wall up, which actually has for the new estate, and it has actually bounced the noise more towards us.
Oh, geez.
Because this estate's like 30 years old, and they've bounced it towards us more. So there's a whole big community fight going on with the local council about fixing it, because that wasn't even taken into consideration when they built the noise wall for the new estate. They're like, oh, we don't care about them.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, fun.
Yes. Well, we missed last week. We unfortunately both had very busy schedules. But here we are.
We are.
We got
it
here.
Happens. Life happens.
Exactly. Life gets very busy professionally, personally, on all levels.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I found a quote.
Yay.
And I thought it could be a really good place to start for this week.
Okay, lay it on me.
Okay, so it's from Esther Perel.
Oh, I love her.
Yes, I've seen quite a few TikToks with her in it, and just some of the way she puts things, it's kind of mind-blowing. It's like I hadn't even considered that perspective.
She is so out of the box in her thinking.
Yeah, and I love it.
Just brilliant. She's written a couple of really, really good books. They're very, very simple to read. I've watched so much of her stuff that when I read her books, I read it in her accent.
Oh, nice.
So she's reading it to me. And I mind you, when I did my wildflower trip last year up north a little bit, I actually had, I believe it was Mating in Captivity as an ebook. So I spent, 5,000 kilometers. It wasn't that much, that's exaggeration. I think I did 2,500 listening to her as well. So
nice.
But there was a few words that I'm like, what did you just say? Because her accent is actually still quite thick. So when I've reread the book, it's like, oh, that's right. That's what that word was. But yeah, she's amazing. She has podcast if you haven't heard about it. She's got two actually. Where Do We Begin, where she actually does therapy sessions with couples, just one-offs. And they're live. So there's no pre-work in it. There's nothing going on there. Really, really worth listening to. And the other one is Let's Work, I believe, which is around work relationships. But both are very, very well worth listening to. She's got a website. She's got a game out to help people with communication. So much stuff. She's just amazing.
Oh, yeah. All right. So the quote that I found.
Yes, go for it.
Was, if you start to feel you have given up too many parts of yourself to be with your partner, then one day you will end up looking for another person in order to reconnect those lost parts.
Oh, that's deep. That's so deep.
And it can be taken so many different ways.
Yes. Yeah.
Because, okay, first thought, you automatically go affair.
Yes.
But what if it isn't? What if it's a platonic relationship?
Yeah.
Like it's just a best friend that helps you pull all the pieces together.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't always have to be a negative so much.
No.
But it also, I feel like it touches on staying current with your partner in the way you're growing and they're growing in order to be able to grow together.
And expressing that, talking about it as well.
Very much so.
I know, and I'm going to probably reference her a lot during this topic. I mean, it's one of her quotes. So I know she talks about a couple that were, this gentleman actually says they've been married 50 years. He's been married for 50 years. And I'm pretty sure from memory, he says they've been married like 4 or 5 times. I've been married for 50 years and I've been married 4 times to the same woman. So what she's actually referencing there is she's recognized this couple has actually recognized that they change over time. So as does their relationship. So every time they go through a new life stage, because we go through life stages.
Yes.
Every time our new lifestyle. So we'll get married and we're newlyweds is one stage. Then we have children, which takes us into the next stage. Our children grow up, which takes us into the next stage. We're going to retirement, which takes us into the next stage. So every time something major happened like that, where they went through the stage, they actually went and got remarried because they realized that themselves had changed and their coupledom had changed. So they were renewing that life and starting fresh into their new stage of life. I thought it was just beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's like I've been with my partner 5 years and I feel like we are so different people to who we were 5 years.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we almost need to start again now.
Yeah.
And it's only been 5 years, but so much has happened in that 5 years.
But we don't realize how much we're changing. We realize how much we sort of go, oh, our partner's changing, or you're going through the different steps in your relationship as well. So you're not in that honeymoon, in air quotes, stage, so you actually go through different types of love. And that's what happens over a long period of time. So it makes sense that you're changing. It makes sense that your partner's changing. And then the union as the couple changes.
Yes.
But then what happens if you don't change at the same level and your partner's dropped back and you have to then be giving up, as she says in the quote, parts of yourself to meet them at their level?
See, that's where it's like my little sister has recently gone through a breakup herself. And one thing this guy said to her is, we're in different places in our life.
Yeah. Happens.
And I take issue with it personally because my partner and I are in different stages of our lives. Yeah. Very much so. Outside of age gap, outside of he's male, I'm female, outside of careers, outside of kids, we're at different stages of our lives. The idea of being in a relationship is you're both in your own lane, but it's about being in your own lane, but checking in. Does that make sense?
Say more about it.
So, okay, trying to find the words because basically at the end of the day, if we try and be on the same path as someone else, don't we become then codependent on that person in order for things to move forward or backwards?
Ooh, codependent's a tricky word.
It's probably too much strong. Yeah, I know with the attachment theories, it's a myth, but it's a word that people will understand.
Yes.
Because you become reliant on this other person in order for your life to move forward or backwards. The struggle happens. Where if you are traveling in your own lanes and you just do that check-in.
Well, that's what a secure relationship looks like in attachment circles anyway, right?
Exactly.
The more secure we are in a relationship, we are going to be more likely to go out and do things on our own because we feel safe, we feel protected, we feel calm, we feel heard, loved, respected, validated, and all those type of things. Whereas if we're different and we're in the insecure spectrum of avoidant or anxious or even the disorganized side, we're not going to be connecting. We're going to find it very, very hard to connect with our partner. And even if we were checking in, the other person's probably going to miss the bids, as in what Gottman uses. He uses the language of bids. I'm trying to connect with you and you're missing it. So if they're missing the bids all the time, then that check-in becomes super hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where, with working with clients, the date night's so recommended.
Oh, yes. So a sex
Because
date.
that's like, instead of like thinking of it, you have to spend money and go out to dinner or the movies or go and do things together. A date night can be simply sitting out on the back patio with a drink and having that purposeful check-in
Yeah.
and asking each other questions. What are you really happy about in our relationship right now? What aren't you happy about in our relationship? How would you like to see this amended? And
What do
then,
you need from me?
what do you
Is
need
the
from
other
me? How
thing.
can we
Yeah.
compromise? Having that purposeful check-in. And I think a lot of couples forget to have the purposeful check-in
Oh, well, they're too
together.
busy, right?
Exactly, because they're both in their own lanes, traveling at their own paces. And it's like, oh, we're both on different paths. Of course you're on different paths. To be on the same path is to be together all the time, doing the same thing all the time.
Mm.
We're always going to have our own path. Always.
Well, you
What's the
need to
difference
have that, though.
between a career mum or dad and the stay-at-home parent? Their lives are on completely different paths.
Then what's keeping them together is probably the children in that sense.
Not always. It's their connection. It's their
Mm.
check-in. It's respecting each other's paths
Yeah.
and working with that person despite their path being different.
Yeah.
So that's why when I hear in a breakup, we're on different paths, I call bullshit. That's not a reason to end a relationship. It means the connection isn't there. It means that the communication isn't there. It means you may not want the same things anymore.
And then what happens though if you don't? If you are having those check-ins and you're realizing that you are wanting different things and your needs aren't being met and the other person cannot meet those needs.
Then that's a whole other conversation, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Because we still need to be able to be true to ourselves in that respect and
Yes.
be, this is where I want to be. This is the goal that I want to set. Are you coming along with me?
Mm.
And, we're going to make this work as a team, or do I need to do this on my own?
And it's also going, okay, I may not want to do that with you. However, I respect that you want to do it and I will support the fact you want to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference.
Yeah. So many people that I know, especially when mature age people, like as in our age, go through university and they've got young kids and their husbands or their wives, it's usually coming from the wives because that's, the Facebook group I was in where this topic came up all the time is study mums. So it's all women, all talking about
upskilling to
how,
get back into the
to
workforce.
get back in the workforce or to just change their career. I mean, I changed my career, I was a decorator for 20 odd years. And then one day I just went, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something better. And as a 30-something-year-old woman, went back to university. And yeah, it was difficult because we had young children. We moved from Queensland to Perth during that time. My husband was quite supportive to a degree, but not a lot. Whereas a lot of these women, I was very lucky in that sense, but a lot of these women who are on these pages are like, I've gone back to study. This is something that I really want to do. And my husband doesn't support me at all. He doesn't help me around the house. He doesn't help me with the kids. I ask, can I have just 2 hours without the kids? He doesn't take them out. So they're on the completely different headbutting pathways right there, where she's going for this goal and he's just like, I don't want to do that. And I mean, that's an act of betrayal right there. And it's the same thing. We think about betrayal as only being around affairs. Whether it's physical or emotional, but it's not. It's things like that. It's like you're sabotaging your partner. They are trying to do something for the betterment of the family and of themselves, doesn't matter what gender it is. And if you're not supporting your partner, then you're betraying that partner,
Yeah.
which is really hard to sort of move through, because as we know, university study is a minimum of 3 years and very, very taxing and can be very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did 10.
Yes.
I chalked up 10, thinking about going for more.
I just know uni semester's starting in the next month or 2, and I'm like, oh no, like I gotta go back.
Yep.
But yes.
Yeah. So, but then that's that different pathway, and it may only be that you need to be on that different pathway for 3 years. But then what's going to happen when the person maybe goes on that, gets a better job and they're working more and they're away, so their career takes off. There's got to have this, as you said before, there's got to have this conversation about what is the compromise to be able to allow this to happen safely within the coupledom.
Very much so.
It's hard work.
Yeah, it's remembering that relationships aren't always 50-50.
Oh, never.
I don't think they're ever 50-50. Someone's always picking up the slack.
Yes.
And the problem is when it's always the same person picking up the slack.
Yes.
It's about taking turns.
Yes. Yes, and acknowledging each other's strengths and weaknesses to be able to do that.
And working to each other's strengths and weaknesses. It's like I can put a load of washing on, but I'll forget about it. I'm one of those people, out of sight, out of mind. I know I've put it on, but getting it out and onto the line, no.
I've been in training Monday, Tuesday this week, full days, start 6 o'clock in the morning, finish 3 o'clock in the afternoon, clients in the afternoon, exhausted, put a load of washing on in between, a 10-minute break. It's sitting in my laundry in a basket for the last 2 days. I'm like, oh, I haven't put it out yet. Oh God, it's one of my biggest habits is putting washing in, or it sits on the line for a week, because it's just life gets in the way.
So I'm now in the habit of telling my partner, I'm putting a load of washing on. So he actually keeps an ear out for when it's done and he'll hang it out.
That's good.
Or he'll come and get me and go, hey, come and help me hang this out.
Yeah, teamwork.
Yeah, it's becoming a teamwork thing. And it's been so nice because before I started working, I was doing everything.
Yeah.
Because that was my job, the house.
Yep.
But now I'm working. So it's like, I need help.
And you've touched base and you've expressed that.
Yes.
And your
doesn't
partner
always, it gets heard, but sometimes we don't always see action, but that's where we communicate this.
Sometimes it takes a little bit of prodding and a little bit of compromising to work out how it does it. Yeah. So the other thing that we were talking about before was in regards to the same sort of stuff when we think of betrayal and coming down to affairs, is the myth that you need to be unhappy.
Yes.
To actually have an affair.
Yes, that was one of the TikToks that I first saw Esther in, was that it's not so much that they're in an unhappy relationship. There's something within them that they don't like and they want to experience a new part of themselves.
Or they're missing that part.
Yeah.
Which actually relates to your quote that you opened with.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So you can't cheat-proof your relationship at all. And that's, I think, where a lot of people, someone will maybe have an affair or they'll think about wanting an affair, so they'll go into an open relationship or they'll try polyamory. But unless the foundations are for the right reasons, that's not going to work. You'll just pull your relationship apart quicker than if you work through the issues and actually go.
Oh, most definitely. I've got all respect for anyone who can do open or poly relationships, because I'm not a very good sharer when it comes to my partner. I'm very clear about this, but we also have the check-ins going, okay, like I said, the purposeful check-in. But you got to have that foundation in order to be able to have an open or poly, because you're inviting other people into your relationship. So if what you have isn't solid as a rock,
Yeah.
it's like it'll crumble.
Yeah. And you need to be open about if you are poly or wanting that, like that open
Mm.
relationship style at the beginning of the relationship. It's
Yes.
really not a great idea to think you can be monogamous or try monogamy when you know that you're not, because that
Yes.
comes that part of you that wants that exploration or wants to be able to have the freedom to love other people and have more than one partner. That
Mm.
part of you then is absolutely ignored, and
Mm.
then that part will stick its head up quite often, and it will be, pay attention to me, you're ignoring me, I'm not feeling loved, I'm not feeling respected or needed, I'm not having that side of you does not get,
Mm.
you
Your
know,
needs
the
aren't being
attention
met.
that it needs. Yeah.
Mm.
I work with a lot of parts, like, so parts, if you've ever seen Inside Out, perfect
Mhm.
movie for parts and how it all works with the different emotions. That's us. So that's just one part of us. So it's being able to recognize that that part needs something else. So you
Mm.
can't go into a monogamous relationship being a poly or wanting to be open and then just dumping it
Well,
or
it
bringing it up to your
creates,
partner.
yeah, if you are open with it at the beginning, well, at least once you realize that's what you want, because you may go into a
Absolutely.
monogamous relationship because that's what you were raised to believe in, it, da 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 da. uh, All possible reasons. And it might be years down the track, you realize this is what you're actually wanting. Once realizing that's what you're wanting, having that conversation, which is not always easy, because your partner can feel very blindsided.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's being honest with that person you still love and respect, and giving them the choice of if they want to be a part of that or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially if it's something you already know going into the relationship, you're essentially giving that person a choice of, is this something you would be okay with?
Yeah.
Because if you're not okay with it, it's kind of your get out of jail free card to walk away.
It is. It is. And we can't expect people, you know, after a few years when they're building a life together to then come out and say, this is what I want in this type of relationship, and then automatically expect their partner to be okay with it if they're not, because their partner is going to say, well, have you been lying to me about everything else? Or are you not the person that I know who you are? So that's a level of betrayal in the sense there, because you haven't been upfront and honest and authentic about who you are and what your needs are to start with.
Very much so.
Yeah. And that's a hard one to break through and move through. It will take a long time to actually move through that, to be able to come out the other side, whether or not you stay together and you work out a compromise, or you break up and go and find people who can actually meet those needs and respect you for those needs.
Yes, and that's where therapists, especially you, Kelly, come into this. When it comes to poly and all that sort of thing, that's what you specialize in.
Yeah.
So it's what you work with. So you would probably be better at supporting someone through that conversation than me.
Yeah.
But relationships is something I'm very passionate about. So it's I think it's the one thing our specialties technically have in similarity, because they're similar in the fact that we relationships, and we got a lot of the same opinions as like we've just discussed with how relationships and healthy relationships work. But then we also have our own sides where you go off into your sexual and trauma and poly and everything. And I've got my parenting, adults dealing with children
Yeah.
sort of specialty. So
They do blend.
they do.
Sometimes they cross paths.
Hey, at the end of the day, parents can be poly.
They can be. And I mean, poly in itself is a whole big conversation that we won't have today. But I mean,
No.
there's different umbrella terms and there's different formats and there's different ways that you can do it. But it still comes back to being honest and open about what your needs are. And I mean, our needs change over time. Our values don't tend to. So
Mhm.
if you can recognize what your values are to start with, do a
Mhm.
lot of inner work around that yourself, and then be able to bring that to your partner and go, this is what my values are, what are yours? Because
Mhm.
if it's a lot of people find that if their values aren't matching, then they're not going to be able to be compatible, or their values are not something that they're willing to compromise on anyway. And it's worth exploring where those values come from with each other. Being curious is one of the best things that you can do with your
Mm.
partner at any point in time, is in those check-ins that you were talking about, is actually being curious. Where did this come from? What's the story behind it?
Mm. And
Why
not
is it
getting
so important?
defensive.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard though, right?
You gotta leave the ego out of the conversation. And if you're getting feedback that can be a critique or a criticism, you almost got to take it on the chin and go, okay, can you give me an example of this behavior that you're talking about? And you
Mm.
should have an example of that behavior, especially if it's irking you, and have ways of, okay, how can we improve on? Because, like, I'm not saying you need to come to this meeting prepared with paperwork and suggestions on how to fix this person. It's about having an honest conversation without any fear that it's going to become an argument.
Yeah. Yeah. And explaining your position of why, going into those deeper levels of, I felt hurt because this brought up, abandonment issues for me, or it brought up
Mm,
that I don't feel good enough for you. Or if you've got somebody you feel as though you're being constantly nagged at, it's like, well, how is that affecting you, and how is it affecting the other person who's saying you're being constant, like who's doing the nagging? It's they're things that need to come up in a conversation where, as you said, it's not defensive. Very hard not to be defensive,
mm,
because you do, I mean, that part sticks their head up and says, hey, I need to protect you, and I need to manage this, and I need
yes.
to, this is the most likely an inner child wound somewhere, or an adolescent wound where you're being picked on by your mum, or picked on at school, or not feeling good enough. There's all that old stuff that
Mm.
that comes to the surface when we have these big conversations
Yeah, it's like I
around.
could give an example of last week. Damien asked me a question going, oh, what if I did this? Would you do that? And I sat there quietly and he's like, is there a reason why not? And I went, previous relationship. Because
Mm,
kids were around, little ears.
yep.
And he's gone, oh, okay, no problem. What if we did this instead? And I've gone, sometimes, because it wasn't as big of a deal previously. But
Mm,
it's like you can have, like, even without using the full description or anything, like, obviously later when it was just us, we had the conversation of that sort of thing. And I just told the basics, because sometimes you really don't need to rehash old shit.
no.
It's just giving enough information so your partner understands why.
Yeah.
And it could be, I was made to do that all the time, so now I don't want to do it.
Mm,
And that was pretty much the explanation.
yeah.
And that was good enough.
Yeah. You can heal from that stuff though.
You can.
Having a loving partner and
Oh,
doing those things that used to happen in the past, when done correctly and when spoken about in the right amount, you can learn, if you want to,
mm. Oh, definitely.
like doing or love doing those sort of things, because the person, I think, definitely makes a difference. Clearing that nervous system of that trauma
I think it's
definitely
more,
helps.
especially personally in that situation, it was expectation.
Yeah, expectations a big thing.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Mm.
It is
So,
massive. The amount of expectation we put on ourselves as well
mm-hmm,
as our partners
mm-hmm.
is mind blowing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because your relationship isn't perfect doesn't mean it's not healthy. At the end of the day, no relationship is perfect
Oh God, no.
because no one person is perfect.
God, no. We like to think we are.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have a list. I have a list, and I think my dad's right at the top because I'm pretty sure he thinks he's absolutely perfect. Just ask him. But no one is perfect.
No.
So how can you expect a perfect relationship? Because there are like 7 billion trillion different versions of normal or perfect.
I like imperfectly perfect myself.
Perfectly imperfect.
Yeah, whichever way.
Yeah.
Both work.
Exactly.
Definitely.
And it's like you can't compare your relationship to another person's relationship because it's got 2 completely different people involved.
Yeah.
And depending
But
on
we
if you're
do.
poly or not, 2 or more.
Yeah, but we do compare. We
Yeah.
do hold people to standards of past partners.
Mhm.
Because we sort of there's a part of us that likes what happened back then with those partners, and we'd like to recreate it, and we can't let that go enough to be able to go into the new relationship.
And sometimes we hold on too tightly to past betrayals.
Yes. Yes.
And that can then,
partners.
and you can start thinking of your new partner as your last partner who would betray you in that way. So you automatically assume that new partner is going to betray you like that.
Yeah, that's worldview. That's working models. That's trauma sitting in the nervous system. That's, there's so many layers to why we bring in past hurts to new relationships.
Yes.
So it's a good idea if you are leaving one and going into another one to do some, that inner work first, explore it. I don't believe any relationship is a waste of time.
No.
They teach us something about ourselves, whether it's something we like in ourselves or other people, or something we don't like in ourselves or other people.
What we don't want, what we do want.
Yeah.
We may not always know what we want, but we may know exactly what we don't want.
Oh my God, yes. Yes.
And
My
sometimes
don't want list is longer than my want list. Because it's easier
but at least you're aware,
right? It's easier to pinpoint is that I do not want this. And even when I was doing my rebranding, my don't want in, it sounds awful, but the qualities that I don't want in clients are probably bigger than the ones that I do want in clients. But the ones that I do want, I hold very, very dearly. And I'm very lucky that all my clients that I work with fit into that bracket anyway, which is lovely.
I think because you know exactly who you want to work with,
yeah,
you're attracting those people.
Yeah, that part of me is very clear.
Yeah, which is really beautiful because a lot of people don't have that.
No, it took a long time.
It does.
Soul searching.
But
it even comes across the same with our friendships. The same thing is we have to work out what we'll accept and what we won't accept.
Oh, that's all boundary setting.
Oh, yeah.
I think we covered that now, what, second, third? One of our early podcasts, we talked about boundaries.
Yeah.
I've been talking with clients about boundaries a lot lately and setting healthy ones and realizing what our boundaries are. So it's like working with exercises, like visualizing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And that sort of work. So it's been lots of fun because it's really interesting to see how vast people's boundaries are. Everyone's got such different boundaries. So unique. And it's actually, it's really amazing to watch how different everyone is.
It is. It's amazing. I will second that one. Boundary work is one of my favorite things, I must admit, because it just encompasses so much. And I bring a lot of the parts work into that, of where that boundary has come from, or why it can't be set, or why it can't be followed through. Why is it so, flexible, or why is it so rigid, on so many different things. But yes, back to the original topic, We just do these big circles all the time because this is literally unscripted. We do not have dot points. We do
No.
not have a script. The conversation just goes wherever it goes.
Yes.
And as natural as what, as a therapy session would run. This is how natural sometimes a therapy session would run.
Yes.
And then we just keep bringing it back
Around to that original quote today. Like today's a quote. Sometimes we bring forward a case study, and it's no different to a client presenting to us with an issue. And we start working around that, and it becomes a full circle, and we kind of come back to the original issue, and then it does another circle. And we're just, as much as we're working in a circle, we're still kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
Because as human beings, we have a habit of talking in circles.
We do. It's natural. Because our brain doesn't want to let go of certain things.
Exactly. And it can get a little bit dizzy when we do the same rotation in the exact same way multiple times.
Yeah.
And that's our job as counsellors, to maybe ask a slightly different question to get a different response so we can move it forward a little.
Or challenge something when the time's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got to have that rapport with your clients, got to have that relationship. Because it's not going to be the first session and we go, are you sure you think that way?
I think I've been known to do that sometimes. Gently.
Yeah, but you've obviously had an instant connection.
Yes. You read the room.
It's very much about reading the room. I'm pretty sure the earliest I've challenged a client is third session.
Yeah.
Because that was when I felt comfortable enough to do so, and that they wouldn't shut down.
Yeah.
Or explode. In this case, with this client, it was shut down, but because everyone reacts differently as well to being challenged.
Yes.
Comes down to your fight, flight, freeze.
I do a bit of both. I do a bit of all of them. Don't have a go-to particular. It depends on who it is and what it is, and what part of me has shown up at that particular moment. And I have been known to, even myself, to go and sit down in my room and just do that inner work and go, okay, who is this that's talking to me right now? What is this about? What do you need me to know? What do you need me to do for you? How do I need to fix this? What do I need to know about you? And I have this brilliant conversation with that part and see what other parts pop up within that. Oh, here comes a train. See what other parts sort of pop up as we go through and connect with them. And I notice it in relationships. I do notice it in my friendships and things too, all the different parts of me that I'm striving to get, where you don't fit in. That I don't fit in feeling, I don't belong feeling. Yeah, that's that seeking out of that. I need to find something to fill that part of me that I've noticed that is missing within other relationships.
But yes, and like talking about parts is coming back to that original quote, is sometimes we do lose parts of ourselves in relationships.
Yeah, we do.
And sometimes we don't get them back.
No.
And that's okay.
Yeah. But we need to be careful, because it does lead to resentment or grief. Sometimes we have to grieve something. We can grieve a lost part. Or maybe the part changes. That's the other thing too. Our parts can actually evolve just like we do.
And it's learning to recognize them.
Yeah.
But yes. So I think we'll call it a wrap, because I have children I have to pick up from school.
Yes. And I need to get to the office and have some clients this afternoon. So I am doing a public speaking event on the 22nd of February, which is actually ironically talking about our topic that we discussed last week, which is the...
Sorry, my dog.
There's your dog. Hi, puppy.
You apologize for your dog, but I didn't for mine.
That's right. I apologize for my train. and my dog. So yeah, a public speaking event at the Perth People's Forum on the 22nd of February. The topic is around the place for medication within mental health, which is what we spoke about last week. And yeah, and so I'll actually be talking about a little bit. So the big news this week came out, which I saw in the news, was about psychedelics. I need to do some more research on that because psychedelics have actually been approved in Australia to be used with mental health.
Oh,
so
wow.
I need to dig into that.
Yeah.
Because that's quite exciting and interesting, the research that's been going on there. And I'll be talking about EMDR and inner child work and parts work, intergenerational trauma, all around how that influences who we are and whether or not medication can actually help or hinder in those environments. So
awesome. Will this be recorded or anything?
I do not know, actually. The tickets are available on Eventbrite, but we'll pop a link in the description.
Yep.
For this podcast. And yeah, so there'll be another lady who's going to talk about her actual experience with medication and how it actually ruined her life, and then she got off it and improved. So
wow.
Yeah, big turnaround story for her. So that's exciting. So me public speaking, here I'm fine. On a Zoom call with 20, 30, 40 people, I'm fine. Put me in front of a microphone and stand up in front of people, not a chance. So I'm going to do some EMDR around public speaking here.
Maybe a good idea.
Yes.
Okay,
yes, I'm looking
so
forward to that.
Good luck with that. I will be thinking of you, but I'm sure I will see you before then anyway.
Yes,
we'll probably, hopefully we'll get another recording in before then. But obviously, as always, please remember none of this was a counselling session, and that if anything did hit close to home, please remember to seek out professional help close to yourself. And if you don't have someone, please remember Kellie and I both have open books currently. So thank you for everybody who came to listen. I am Cris of Carnelian Bella Counselling, carbella.com.au. And you can reach us or send us a question that if you'd like us to discuss at unscriptedcounselors@outlook.com.
Yes. And I'm Kellie from Alternative Lifestyles and Sexual Counselling, located in Perth. At the moment, you can still check my website on www.wewalkwithyou.com.au. That will be changing as the new website is being built and should be released by the end of the month.
Ooh, exciting.
Yes. Yes.
So much happening. It's wonderful. Okay, well, we'll see everyone next. Well, you'll see us anyway.
If you've got any topics, send them through. Any comments, welcome. Like, share, subscribe. Find us on Podbean and Apple and YouTube.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent.
Mwah.
Thanks, Bye.
Bye.